We hope you enjoy this audio-only podcast. You can watch the full video versions on our YouTube channel at All Things Unexplained. There we share visuals, documents, and extended discussions you won't hear anywhere else. While you're there, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a new video. Plus, if you subscribe and comment on a video, that will enter you into our giveaways. But for now, enjoy this audio version of All Things Unexplained. Hello, Unexplained Ones. This is Dr. Mounce, and welcome back to All Things Unexplained. This episode, I had the honor and privilege of joining my friends at the Cryptid Women's Society. Make sure you head over to their YouTube channel and give them a sub at the Cryptid Women's Society. There you'll find Exploring the Unexplained with me. You can also find it on our YouTube channel at All Things Unexplained. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button and comment on the video, and that will automatically enter you into our giveaways. We've got a lot of signed swag from Patricia Cornwell, Colonel Drew Miller, Bev Vincent, and some amazing swag from the Sasquatch Coffee Company. But for now, enjoy my full chat with Lisa at the Cryptid Women's Society.
Cryptid Women's Society, walking in the shadows, the cult edition. Cryptid Women's Society, walking in the shadows, the cult edition.
Hello and welcome to Shadow Talk Unfiltered. I am your host, Lisa, and tonight on Shadow Talk Unfiltered, we're joined by Tim Mounce, better known as Dr. Mounce. Hello.
Hi, Lisa.
Hey, he is the creator and host of All Things Unexplained. Tim has spent years exploring UFOs, cryptids, ancient mysteries, and the questions that sit at the edge of science and experience, hosting hundreds of conversations with researchers, investigators, and witnesses from around the world. He's known for his grounded, thoughtful approach. Tim brings curiosity without hype and conversation without agendas. And tonight we're getting into what he's learned after years of walking that line between the known and the unexplained. And we have known Tim for the last couple of years that Cryptid Women's Society has been in fruition or in existence. And you guys have just been, you and CJ, who's the other co-host of All Things Unexplained podcast, have been such a supportive kind of backbone for us, keeping us going and telling us we're doing all right and pushing us along. And so thank you so much for that. And we're stoked to have you on the show again.
Oh, well, thank you, Lisa, and thanks for having me on. And CJ wanted to tell you hello.
Hi,
I actually said she should jump in here, but she had another obligation. Like I said, It's December while we're filming right now, and there's just so much going on with Christmas, everything. But yeah, we're big fans of the Cryptid Women's Society, so this is such an honor for me to get to jump in here with the Cryptid Women's Society. And how do you like my coffee mug tonight?
Oh my God, love it. I see the Bigfoot on there.
The Cryptid Women's Society.
Cool.
I appreciate that. And you want to know what else?
Look. What do you think of my Bigfoot?
Look, I'll tell you when I'll need that. So I'll show you the other thing that keeps me going. Lisa, this is from my friend Tracy Arvin. I think that your listeners and viewers will appreciate this product. So sometimes I have to get away from the coffee mug or pour up a little Smoky Mountain Squatch Shine.
Oof.
That's right, but you best be careful with this stuff, though. Let me tell you.
Oh, gosh.
So that's from my good friend Tracy Arvin. So
well done, Tracy. What percentage is that, Tim?
That'd be 90 proof right there.
Oh my Lord.
90 proof. Don't drink this too close to the fire pit. I promise you that. But you know what? Our friend Tracy Arvin here, he came on the podcast and he had a Bigfoot encounter as a child that was so moving. Now,
Yeah.
this just goes to show you the power of Bigfoot. And I know we're going to jump into aliens and all kinds of things tonight. But this Bigfoot encounter as a child was so profound to his life. Like as an adult now, it's inspired his Smoky Mountain squat shine and literally what he makes a living doing now. So he used to, in I believe it's rural Kentucky, he would have to walk down a long rural driveway, to get to the bus stop. And one morning noticed that he sensed something tracking alongside him in the woods,
Yeah.
and he could hear it too. He could hear like twigs snapping and that sort of thing. And this continued on for quite a while. And he is convinced that that was a Sasquatch, a Bigfoot, that tracked him as he
Yeah.
got on the bus for quite a while there. And so, yeah, that's what inspired Tracy to start Smoky Mountain Squatch Shine.
That is wild.
Truly,
It's
definitely wild,
Isn't it
right?
amazing? And I think there's so many people in our industry, as far as, ufology, cryptids, paranormal investigation, that have started these businesses out of experiences and encounters that they've had and these profound life-changing events that have happened with these supernatural or these biological creatures.
Yeah, it's telling. I mean, just look
Mm.
at the Cryptid Women's Society.
Well, it started
That,
because Juliet and I kept seeing ghosts everywhere, and we lived in a haunted house.
oh, hello. I don't think I knew that. So y'all see
Really?
Ghost?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, Juliet sees a lot of that sort of stuff, far more than what I do. I've seen UFOs my whole life, things in the sky flashing their lights at me
Oh,
and that sort of stuff. But we lived in a haunted house with what we now know as a hat man, and we used to call him George, and he'd just piss us off so much. We would always get really like big frights from him, and he'd just show up out of nowhere. And he just got to the point where it was so annoying. We'd get so grumpy at him. We'd be like, just George, go away. And so then we found out that he was a hat man, and we were like, oh, sorry, dude.
oh
But
my. Well,
yeah, it was crazy.
how old was George?
He was definitely an older gentleman. And he had the big kind of top hat and the big long black coat. And Juliet may have seen him a little bit differently than what I did, but we both agreed that he had the top hat and he just seemed like this older smoking man, like chugging away on a cig or on a cigar or something like that. And we
Oh,
had other encounters in that house, a lot of really scary ones, but a lot of like really weird ones. Like I saw a Victorian lady sitting at the table, perfect blue dress, white ruffle, brooch, wild. Like saw her clear as day, and then gave me a hell of a fright. I was trying to go for a pee and nearly wet my
oh
pants
my. This is
before I got
sounding
there.
very Jack the Ripper-esque here.
Yes, that's kind of that would be exactly what I would describe him as. And it was weird because then we found out a few years ago that the girls that would come over to play with with Juliet's little daughter, who was kind of 7 or 8 at the time, and her little two friends that would come over used to go home and tell their mum about it all the time and how they would see George and they would, there was ghosts and stuff in the house. And we had no idea that they were experiencing it as well until a couple of years ago when we caught up with their mum and she was like, oh yeah, the girls used to come home and tell us about it all the time. And we were like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, your poor daughters. We had no
That
idea.
that that reminds me so much of what CJ says all the time when, like the neighborhood moms find out that, oh, you host a podcast about aliens and Bigfoots and UFOs.
Yeah.
How nice. Children, let's go.
Yeah, just go this way.
Get in the car. Back home,
funniest
children.
funniest thing, Tim, and I totally back CJ on this. So I went to pick up my son who you just met before from kindergarten. He's only 4, and one of the teachers came up to me and said, oh, he's had a really great day today. He's been trying to learn how to fly. And I went, oh, really? And she goes, yes, apparently you could fly when you were a little kid. So he was practicing flying outside. And she just looked at me and I went,
Whoops.
I could. I was just like, just walk away.
Mom
I
used to
could.
fly.
Mummy used to fly when she was 6 in the backyard. Yeah. But that's for a different story. Tell us about you. So we met a long time ago when we were literally just starting, and we caught up on a show many, many moons ago. And since then, your show has simply skyrocketed. Oh my gosh, you've had the most amazing guests on. You've done television work. You've done all sorts of stuff. So, Tim, tell us about how and why did you start your podcast in the first place? Like, what brought you into this space? I don't know any of this, so I'm really looking forward to
Oh,
learning.
well, that's a good question. We have had a lot of guests and such on, but we still have yet to get the most elusive guest of all, the Cryptid women, Lisa and Jules from the Cryptid Women Society. But that's good. It's giving y'all this aura of mystery. I mean, and it's made us want you on the show even more. So hopefully we'll work that out for
Well, we will make sure we
2026.
work that out next year for sure.
But yeah, so much has happened. And honestly, I kind of, it's like, you know, how when we talk about time and years, biblically anyway, people have generally used the terms BC and AD, right? And to me, that has become COVID. That 2020, there was pre-COVID and there was post-COVID. And I mean this in so many different ways that I probably cannot even put them all into words. But I've always been a fan of the unknown, the unexplained, the mysterious, monsters, aliens, UFOs. I think it dates back for me when I was a child. I loved watching television shows like Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack, like In Search of with Leonard Nimoy. And then later, of course, came X-Files.
Sure.
And Lisa, you wouldn't believe how many middle-aged people I talked to that you ask them, well, what kind of got you into the unexplained? And so many of them will say it was X-Files.
Yeah.
Which is really, tells you about that show. We used to have a group back in the good old days, right? I kind of wish you could still do this. But every Sunday night, we would get together and we just had an X-Files group. And we would go over to somebody's house, have some drinks and snacks and stuff ready, and it was X-Files night. And by the way, don't be late because there wasn't no pause in it. Wasn't no pause in it.
Especially if it's not an episode with the Smoky Man on it.
Oh yeah, he kind of sounds like George, by the way.
He does.
The Smoking Man does.
Smoking Man.
Modern day George. But yeah, you couldn't miss it because there was no pause in it, and you didn't know if it'd ever come on again.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it'd be a rerun, maybe it wouldn't. But X-Files was very inspirational for me. And the other thing that was a huge inspiration, and maybe I shouldn't have been allowed to do this, but I guess nobody knew, is as a boy late at night, and I had a radio, right? And you start flipping that dial in the middle of the night, and I would play around the AM, and it didn't take so long before I would eventually discover Coast to Coast AM.
Oh,
Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell, and later on George Norrie and different hosts. And that was just the best thing to listen to as a boy in the middle of the night on the radio. They had some enthralling episodes. And, I believe that now, which it's still on, of course. And one of the really wild things for me is I recently got shouted out on Coast to Coast AM. I don't know if you know this.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you. And I got invited to be on Coast to Coast AM sometime. So I'm hopeful to take them up on that.
Right.
But that was amazing because I used to listen to Coast AM. And matter of fact, fast forward. Such an honor, All Things Unexplained, to, let me make sure it gave me a microphone warning. Do I still sound okay, Lisa?
Sorry, yeah, it was just the connection, I think, the internet connection that went a bit weird.
Oh, no worry. But it's been such an honor here on All Things Unexplained to actually have some guests on that were guests of Art Bell on Coast to Coast AM.
Wow.
And I'll give you a great example of that. We had the honor of having Travis Walton on,
Yes, you did.
most likely the most famous alien abductee ever. They made a movie based on his abduction called Fire in the Sky.
Hmm.
If you watch our interview with him, you'll find out that Fire in the Sky was definitely dramatized and sensationalized it as opposed to what really happened to him. But nonetheless, Travis had this encounter where he was abducted. And as CJ and I were preparing to talk to Travis, we listened to his interview with Art Bell again
Mm.
from the Coast to Coast AM files. And we thought, I told CJ, I was like, you know what? We don't want to duplicate what Art Bell did, but the way he started that interview was perfect. And we decided that we're going to start that interview the same exact way that Art did from back in the day. And it was a great idea. And we've actually patterned, I guess, a lot of our style off of how Coast to Coast AM goes for the most part. Because you listen to those episodes of Art Bell, and he was so respectful and polite of any guest that he had on. And and he let them tell their stories, right? And he let people decide for themselves what to make of it. And that's kind of how we try to be on the podcast. Like, we don't really think that people are tuning in to All Things Unexplained to hear what we think about things. We
Yeah.
think they're tuning in to hear people's stories and to
Mhm.
find out this information that they can then take. We like to give people credit for being independent, critical thinkers. You know, we like to say the government's number one most hated person is someone that is independent and self thinking and doesn't need them. The government hates that.
Yeah.
The military hates it too.
Yeah.
Well, so we like the people to make up their own mind. We don't really try to tell them what to think. And when we have a guest on, we are we go out of our way to be polite and
Mm.
respectful and let them tell their stories. And I think that that's served us well and it actually has set us apart. Like, you're not going to get any sort of drama or over the top sensationalism or arguing or no Jerry Springer type of stuff. But at least I go back to COVID though, and what happened in March 2020. Well, CJ and my friend Smitty, who I knew for a long time in Mississippi, we were teachers together, and we kind of bonded over Cryptid in Mississippi, which I'll tell you about that later maybe. And we had been talking about doing a podcast for quite a while, but then all of a sudden in March 2020, COVID hit, and poof, what do you know? Our kids aren't in school. They're
Mm.
home all the time. Nobody's going to work. Or everybody's just home, remote teaching or whatever. You're just home.
Mm.
The roads are abandoned. You know, it was so apocalyptic. I'll never
How,
forget.
Tim, can I ask you what sort of
Yeah.
lockdown, what state are you in America, and what sort of lockdown period did you go through? What was that like for you guys?
Well, I'm in North Carolina, and I mean, I just remember most distinctly schools shutting down, churches shutting down. I can remember just hitting the road with my kids on the bike in the middle of the week and just riding around,
Yeah.
crossing the street, just zooming around in the street. And it was so surreal and so apocalyptic. And, you know, my son had school all of a sudden on Zoom. And that's really how we got going on the podcast because out of nowhere, all these video conferencing softwares
Mm.
just exploded. Like, I'd never heard of Zoom before 2020. We're on Zoom right now. And then
That's it.
boom, boom, there it is. Out of nowhere. Makes you wonder, right? Like, all of a sudden Zoom is worth millions or billions. But yeah, video conferencing software just blew up. And the next thing you know,
Yeah.
it didn't matter how big you were in terms of an entertainer, podcaster, musician, television show host, whatever. You were doing it from your house. And
Mm.
we're like,
Every-
and everybody was having problems. As a matter of fact, it got to the point, I don't know if you remember it this way, but I can remember where you were more popular. You got more cred if your show just didn't look or sound as good because it just kind of proved you were more real, you know?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, that's how everybody was because nobody sounded that great anymore. And everybody was having technical difficulties and figuring things out. And we're like, you know what? If we're ever going to start a podcast, it's got to be now. If it ain't
Yeah.
now, it's never going to happen. And so COVID made us get going. And I had written some Bigfoot themed children's books,
Yes.
which you can find all of them on Amazon. One of them is the latest one is called Bigfoot Pickleball. I'm not here to sell my books, but it is the world's first children's pickleball book with Bigfoot in it. I'll just throw that out there.
Also, love that book. I've read it.
Oh,
Love
thank
it.
you. Oh,
So
wow.
good.
Awesome.
And like
I am
Christmas
impressed.
presents. My kids are all
Oh,
getting Bigfoot books. Yeah, 100%. So
well, thank you, Lee.
100% like
Thank you.
plug that puppy.
Well,
How
and we
many
do, and
books have you got now? How many books in the series?
I believe I'm up to 4 and some exciting news too. But we have a nonfiction book coming out next year. It's called Voices in the Shadows, and it's nonfiction. And I get into a lot of things. I reveal a lot of things in that book. Maybe I can circle back to it later. Have you ever heard of Stranger Things?
Yes, I know Stranger Things.
So, if anybody's listening and is a fan of Stranger Things, there's a big connection in my book to Stranger Things.
Ooh, cool. Okay.
I guess I will get
Intriguing.
side yeah, I guess I will get sidetracked here a little. So CJ and I live in central North Carolina,
Mm.
and just down the road from us there is a creepy underground base. And that underground base, and by the way, guess who else grew up around here? The brothers that make Stranger Things. And so there's a lot of references in Stranger Things to North Carolina, specifically
Yeah.
to where we live, Jordan Lake. And then the creepy facility in Stranger Things is based on those brothers' experience with the creepy underground base down the road from CJ and myself. And it's called,
Holy.
yeah, you can Google this, and I've discovered quite a lot about it. It's called Big Hole, Hole Road, Big Hole Road.
Big
And
hole
so
road.
get this is apparently at least a 13-story deep underground facility. It is owned by AT&T of all people. Do you know AT&T?
They're a cell phone company, eh?
Yeah,
Hey, cell phone?
that
Mobile.
yeah, they're a communications company,
Mm.
but they're essentially a branch of the government, to be honest. Like
Oh, okay, yeah.
yeah. Well, AT&T owns Big Hole Road, and it is the most secure facility you'll ever go up to, if you dare go up to it. It has no known function, no known purpose, but it's back there. It's back there.
Dude, we're
So I
coming on.
actually, yeah, I found out quite a bit about it for our book, which is going to be out next year, called Voices in the Shadows. So
Wow,
I
that's
even,
I'm totally in on that. Can you do an audio version for me? Because
of the
I'm
book, maybe so.
yeah, Juliet and I laugh all the time because Juliet's an author and she's an amazing reader and she'll smash out a book in like 2 days. And I'm like, oh, can I wait for the movie? Like, I just wait for the movie. So if you make me an audio version, I gotta read it.
All
I
right,
promise.
Dale. Well, I do narrate some books on Audible, but and the latest one is called Killer Kudzu. So I did not write Killer Kudzu, but it's kind of perfect for me because I realized real quick when I was doing narration that, you know what, I may as well just only do Southern accent books. Like there's no point in me trying to be George, from East Wales or whatever, or
Sure.
there's just it's just pointless. I'll just go ahead and filter only by Southern accent. And Killer Kudzu just right up my alley. It's about genetically modified kudzu that goes on a bloody killer
Wait,
rampage
what is
across
it?
rural
What are you
Georgia.
saying? Kudzu.
Oh, kudzu.
What are you
It's
talking about?
so
Spill the
kudzu is
beans.
it's Kudzu. It's a vine. So it's
Oh,
like
okay.
and it's particularly aggressive in the rural South. So Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Arkansas. So kudzu. And there's a saying about kudzu. If you don't like it, just wait a minute. It'll grow on you. That's what we say.
God, stop.
That's what we say about kudzu. So so yeah, kudzu spreads so rapidly. Like it's infamous for people leaving their car parked somewhere and they're coming back and
Oh,
it's been
wow.
eaten by the kudzu.
Wow, no
But-
way.
So yeah, you can check out Killer Kudzu, which I narrate
All
on
right,
Audible.
I'll watch that too.
But I
That
just
sounds
realized,
amazing.
thank you. I just realized I took forever to say about the beginning of our podcast. But my Bigfoot children's books, yeah, I met so many people because of those. So many cool
Mm.
people. And then the other like my friend Kilted Creature, who is a creature from the Black Lagoon that wears a kilt and plays the bagpipes and does metal music.
Oosh.
Kilted Creature. Yeah, he's so cool. Like I can never be that cool. Come on.
Yeah, totes.
But not many people can. But all of a sudden, the conventions went online for a brief period of time. So I got invited to go on a convention and talk about my books, right? And I thought, oh, this is a perfect opportunity for CJ and my friend Smitty to join me on the con, and we'll talk about Bigfoot, and it'll be our first ever podcast. And so it
Oh,
was.
good.
And then our official first podcast was with a man that had been a witness to one of the most famous UFO encounters in history in the 70s, also in rural Mississippi, in a little town called Flora, Mississippi. And Lisa, I'll be honest with you, CJ, at the time when we first started the podcast, I thought she was going to be like my Scully, right?
Mm,
Like I thought I'm going to be more like Mulder because I mean, I guess you'd say open-minded, not
yeah.
naive, but I'm kind of into it, like UFOs and all the things, right? She was kind of skeptical, and she honestly, and his name was Mr. Billy. That's what he went by. He wouldn't go by his real name, and she thought he
Mm,
was just gonna sound like this crazy old man, right? Like they had this Bigfoot encounter, but quite unexpectedly for her, Mr. Billy came on and he was smart, intelligent, kind, polite.
mm.
And when he told his story, you believed him. It was 1,000% believable. And Mr. Billy reminded CJ of her granddad
Mm.
and in all the good ways.
Yeah.
And it changed her then and there on our very first episode. That's been like 500 episodes ago. I mean, she
Right.
didn't
Yeah.
last no time. Like she like boom, she got broken down. No more Scully skeptic. She was like, wait, there's something here.
Yeah.
Something is to this because Mr. Billy, that particular encounter involved over a dozen law enforcement officers that tracked a UFO across the countryside in rural Mississippi in the 70s. And it had no positive impact, really, honestly, on his life. Even today, he still doesn't use his real name when he talks about it. Not only that, but it was damaging for the whole town.
Mm,
Anybody that was involved with it had a negative effect on their life. And so that tells you like these people are not making this story up. Mr. Billy, this wasn't even his first encounter with
mm.
these objects, with this phenomenon. He had been seeing it for years. And most of the time he was the only one that saw it and people kind of knew he would see them sometimes. But then all of a sudden this one particular night, basically the whole town saw it.
Mm, mm.
And so it changed him. And then likewise when we talked to him, it changed us. And we figured out real quick what they mean when they say that the UFO topic is a rabbit hole,
Yeah.
because it really is.
Mm.
Even with that one specific case, as we started digging into it, it just kept going and going and going, and you could never get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
And that's
And
how
that's
we got
hard,
started.
right? That's really hard to deal with when you can't find the answers, when it's just it just continues. And that I think that can be a really daunting process for a lot of people that do research like what we do. You know, we go pretty deep into topics and try desperately to find the truth, or at least some point where you find some sort of a truth, right? But when that hole just keeps on going, you have to stop at some point. You have to bring yourself back to reality and do your real job and do your family and live life, and go and do the pickups from school and that sort of stuff, and not just keep your head in a rabbit hole. Do you find it quite difficult to kind of bring yourself out of those spaces when you're real deep into a topic?
Yes, very difficult.
Mm,
I've always been, I guess you'd say, scattered at best. I've always had a hard time focusing just on one specific thing, right?
mm,
And seeing that to its finality, to its conclusion. And so for UFOs in that way have not necessarily been a good thing for me
sure,
because
yeah.
I mean, I'm in the studio here. But yeah, I'm like the dude that's a meme, the crazy yarn conspiracy theory dude on his tech board, Yeah,
Yeah. Me
like
too.
I'm that dude, right? And so I've got all these mind maps where I've got all these branches and things connecting and stuff. And
Yeah.
I mean, the other problem for me, although I am like that, I also consider myself an academic. Uh,
Mm,
I go by Dr. Mounce when I write my books. When I first wrote my books, Lisa, I considered using a pseudonym. Like I was
mm,
really thinking I'll use a pseudonym. I don't know if I really want people knowing it was me that wrote this, but
yeah, yeah.
somebody convinced me to just use my name, Dr. Mounce, and it was also an homage to one of my favorite authors, Dr. Seuss. But I'm like, well, if it worked for Dr. Seuss, and maybe it'll work for me. And I do. So I do have a PhD. So I do have a background in academia. And I mean, I had to do my research and write a dissertation and, go get it through committee and all that stuff. So as an academic, I also have a hard time having these things that I start researching and looking into, but yet I can't find the answer.
Mm, mm.
And I don't know if that's going to keep me going at it or just force me to quit one day,
Yeah. I can
but it's
see
a
the
very powerful
frustration.
factor.
Incredibly, incredibly. I mean, we feel exactly the same way, where you're just kind of diving into this research and you can find tidbits of truth and these kind of surface level answers. But the further you go down, the more red strings you get on the FBI bloody board. And it just turns into this giant um mapping situation of different avenues. And I guess if I mean I'm very scattered, probably like you, and I probably should have been a teacher at some point in my life, because I can do lots of different kind of things all at the same time and multitask on 20 different things and run them all in parallel. But at the same time, I like finishing things. And with this sort of research and in this space, there's no finish. There's only, I'll put a pin in that and come back to it at some point. And then you speak to someone like yourself, or that's why I love doing these interviews, and this is probably one of the reasons why you absolutely love doing what you're doing, because you find out so much cool information, and then you're like, oh my god, I've got a thread that connects to that. Right, and
Oh,
you run
yeah.
away and like put a pin in your pin board.
Yeah. And, we do a lot of different kinds of episodes on All Things Unexplained. And I mean, the viewers could probably tell there's definitely episodes that come together pretty quick and they're kind of on timely things that are happening right now. But Lisa, I've got episodes that I've been working on for years,
Yeah.
literally years, and they're not out yet. because that's another problem I have. I guess you'd say it's a problem is I'm a little OCD and maybe a slight bit of a perfectionist. And so I have a hard time, one, rolling out some sort of video or audio podcast that I'm just not, that I just don't quite have a firm grasp on myself. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yep.
Like I feel like I want the details to be correct on what I'm about to push out there, that like, I want it to be worthy of people to listen to it, and I don't want it to be frivolous.
Yeah.
And so that bogs me down on some of these things. And then there's other things that I've literally been investigating and researching for years, years. And even today, I gave CJ an assignment. I don't give her an assignment very often, but it was her idea. She volunteered. So there's this man I'm trying to get a hold of. His name is Grizz Adams, and maybe by the time people watch this, we will have gotten a hold of him. Have you ever heard of Grizzly Adams? He's a famous, sort of a legendary U.S. folklore kind of person.
I've heard of him, but I couldn't tell you who he is.
There was even a show about
Yeah.
Grizzly Adams, I think, in the
Oh,
70s.
yes.
Well, Grizz Adams was also the name of this man that I'm trying to get a hold of. But the reason I'm trying to get a hold of him because he was the lead investigator. This is another one of those rabbit holes in one of the most famous disappearances ever in 1999 on Mount Shasta in California. And CJ's from California, so I'm hoping she might have a better chance than what I did. A man named Carl Landers was hiking up Mount Shasta. It's a very popular place for hikers to try to get to the top of. And he was with two friends. They were experienced hikers. And one of the mornings from their base camp, I believe they were about halfway up, Carl gets up and tells his friends, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and start making my own way up to the top. And that was the last time anybody ever saw him.
Mm-hmm.
And get this, there's not really anywhere to disappear on Mount Shasta.
Mm-hmm.
But disappear he did. So there's no like huge crevices or places to fall into. There's none of that. But Carl Landers set out on his own that morning in 99, and nobody's ever seen him again. No body, no clues, nothing. He was just gone. And so I have always been intrigued by that case. Some people blame it on Bigfoot. Some people blame it on UFOs. Maybe he was abducted by a UFO. Maybe he was abducted by a Bigfoot. I don't know about all that. I have my suspicions that there's some other human elements involved. But I give you a great example of one thing I found out that's eventually going to end up on a podcast on All Things Unexplained about this situation.
Yes, please.
I found out something that's been on no other documentary, and there's been a lot of documentaries about that case because I was able to obtain the police report. And in the police report, they interviewed his friends. And his friends at one point tell the police that, hey, we've got the name of a psychic back in the hotel room, and we want you to contact the psychic to try to locate our friend.
Sure.
And that little bit of information had not been out there anywhere. And get this, so I had the most a very emotional phone call a few weeks ago because I contacted the daughter of that psychic. I was able to track down who the psychic was. I figured out that unfortunately she had passed. She's deceased now. And she had amazing notes written on her obituary online. And one of the notes was from her daughter. And her daughter said, you know, to the effect of, I really miss you, Mom. I still see your signs all around the house.
Mm.
I'm not 100% sure what she meant by that. But I talked to the daughter, and the daughter was obviously aware of her mother's psychic ventures and told me that, yeah, her mother did try to help find missing persons. Unfortunately, the daughter has destroyed all her files already. But she was kind enough to send me a card, her mother's business card from her psychic business. And so, yeah, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about, right? But will I ever get to the bottom of it? It's doubtful. Will I figure out what actually happened to Carl Landers? Probably not, but I am trying to, though.
Man, Mount Shasta, though, that has got a plethora of different theories wrapped around it that the Atlanteans are living inside Mount Shasta. Like, that was the most recent theory that I learned that I was like, really? They've gone to California to live inside Mount Shasta? Because there's Aryan race that have been seen up the mountain and all sorts of things like that. I don't know. One of my theories was obviously Portal, very similar to, Mount Kailash, in the Himalayas. So is that a theory of yours after some of your research? So what is your theory in regards to like Mount Shasta, Carl's disappearance? What does that look like?
Well, unfortunately, based on my research, my theory with Carl is a little bit on the mundane side. And I actually agree with somebody else that I heard talking about. They look into a lot of these unexplained missing persons cases that the suspect is a UFO or Bigfoot. And a lot of times they've concluded that it's some sort of human element. And that's kind of what I've come to the conclusion. Well, not the conclusion, but I have a strong suspicion because I discovered that his wife was the mayor of a city in California. And I don't know about you, but I've watched a lot of Law and Order. And anytime somebody is a politician, it's like red flag.
Oh, yeah.
That's somebody, yeah, politics, cities, you know, something told me I like, okay, that's an interesting tidbit of information that's not been on any of the documentaries or anything I've seen, which
Mhm.
obviously, if it's on some sort of paranormal documentary,
Sure.
they're going to highlight the sensational part about the possibility of UFOs or Bigfoot or a portal, etc. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, I suspect there could be some sort of human foul play involved here. But again, will I get to the bottom of that? I don't know. But I do think the answer's out there somewhere. And so we'll
Mm.
see. But that's why I need to talk to Grizz Adams, because Grizz Adams led the manhunt, the search
Yeah.
for Carl. And at the time, I believe it was the largest search in the history of the United States. I mean, there were dogs, there were helicopters, there were hundreds of people looking and scouring the Mount Shasta area, but they came up with nothing. I just feel like Grizz has got, it's been so many years later now. I just want to hear what he has to say. I think he probably has some really interesting theories that
Yeah.
also may not make it onto a more paranormal type of show.
Sure. In saying that, if there was a human element in that, how did they get him off the mountain? I mean, if
Yeah,
there's no
that's a
crevasses, it's not like super wildly like pined or, dense bush or, whatever. How did that group of people get him off the mountain? Or in fact, was it his friends who told a bit of a story?
well, and it could be. I have wondered, did he hike the opposite way that morning?
Mm.
So instead of up, did he go down?
Oh.
And did he end up in Mexico, for example? Um,
Oh gosh, or
I
did he
think,
have a bit of a um fraudulent life going on? I mean, especially if
yeah.
your wife is the mayor of a count, is it a county or a town? I don't know what you call it over in the
Oh, a
States.
city
A city. So she's a big mayor. Like,
that I can't figure out what they are. I don't know. But honestly, our best thought is some sort of ventilation
I was going to say
for,
brick for ventilation, right?
yeah, an underground base. We strongly suspect that the houses, as you go down that road, and there's only a few, are actually extensions of the base. And we have heard rumors of facilities that are disguised as houses, but you walk in and it's basically an entrance point to an underground facility. And so that's what we suspect is going on back there. But so many, yeah, there's so much creepy things happening back there. You get back there and you get to that gate and there's cameras looking at you. There's a keypad. There's razor wire. And you're like, wait a minute. I thought this doesn't even have a function or official purpose.
Sure.
But here's all this security.
Mm.
It's very bizarre. Very bizarre.
Yeah, we have some spaces like that in New Zealand. We don't have any what you would call kind of dumb bases or deep underground military bases or anything like that as we know of. We do have an American military base down south, which is the base that you go to before you travel to Antarctica. So that is there. There are talks, there are words on the street about a place called Section 21 or Section 24, which is apparently up in the north of the North Island of New Zealand, very, very high up. And apparently it's a facility where they are holding what we would call cryptid creatures. The giant Haast eagle apparently is up there, which is the second biggest eagle of all time, prehistorically speaking. And apparently that is still alive up there, along with other cryptid creatures and things like that. And so that's kind of a bit of an underground conversation. But that's all we've got going on as far as conspiracies. Oh, wait, no. We also have potentially Charlie Kirk at Valhalla in the North Island, which is witness protection.
Oh my.
Do you know that one?
No, I don't know that.
Oh, Tim. Well, let me introduce you. There is a theory that Charlie Kirk has been sent over to witness protection in a place called Valhalla, which is on Goat Island in just off the coast of Auckland. Valhalla is a real place. It is a retreat run by some Dutch people, business owners, in fact. And about 2 months prior to his assassination, Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, came over and started and set up the FBI on Wellington soil, on New Zealand soil. So we now have the FBI on.
Juliet.
Thank you. Can you go away, please? Thank you. Go away. Don't want to talk to me anymore. Edit 102.
Those Transformers episodes are too short.
Oh my God. No, it's because we couldn't find the remote control. Remember at the start, that was our downfall. That was our downfall. No remote control. He's just rung Juliet at work though, so that's nice.
Oh, good.
Hi, Juliet.
She's like, the podcast must be going real good.
Yeah, she's like, oh, great, yeah. All right, are we going to start at 4? Okay, cool. And action. Click. So Kash Patel brought over the FBI to set up in Wellington, New Zealand 2 months prior to Charlie Kirk's assassination. And so then Kash Patel stood up in front of a group of journalists and said, we'll see you in Valhalla to Charlie Kirk, which was very odd. And a lot of people have mentioned that it was a very, very odd thing to say. Why would you say Valhalla? Nobody is a Viking. And apparently that's the connection to Valhalla in New Zealand. So there you go. What do you think?
Wow. Well, what are they witness protecting him from?
Wow. I don't know. Maybe Candace Owens. No, I don't know.
We better be careful.
Yeah.
Cut.
Beyonce. It's very interesting because there's so many other things that wrap around that. I've heard of crystal skulls that were found in Antarctica that are being housed in the American military base down south. I've heard of, the Section 21 or Section 24 up north, which is housing cryptids. You then go to Australia and you see that there's deep underground military bases over there, including Pine Gap and a couple of other ones that apparently have train lines going all the way through from America to Australia, underground. And apparently that's how the dog men are getting through, dog soldiers, if you will, because there is a
Oh,
bucket load of dog men encounters in Australia. It's really wild. So
wow.
these are the rabbit holes that we are heading down in the South Pacific, and it's not being covered by anyone else, basically. There's bits and pieces floating around, but not as far less than the States and Europe and that sort of stuff. So I love that you're going really deep on your research. I think that's really interesting. And I'm very much the same as far as like sensationalism and that sort of stuff. It's so easy to get sucked into, oh, it's the supernatural and it must be aliens and it must be the paranormal or it must be a portal. But in most cases, it's not. There's a human answer to it. And it's always the most obvious, boring answer that you find, unfortunately.
Yeah, and yet there's no denying that when we start talking about the UFO phenomenon, that it is entwined, integrally entwined with things like national defense, national security, the military,
Mm.
advanced propulsion systems, weaponry, that sort of thing. You just can't get away from it, right?
Mm.
And if if there is such a thing as advanced flying or submerged objects around us, then obviously the military is going to have a very big interest in it.
Yeah, 100%. What is with the US military kind of having ownership over UFOs? You don't often hear um you don't often hear it kind of spread around to other countries, but you very much hear it through the US reverse engineering and you know um contracts being formulated and things like that. What is it with the US and their connection to these other entities?
Yeah, that's a good question. And again, it's so hard to unravel from this whole notion of national security.
Mm.
Also, it's so hard to unravel from this notion of continuity of government. That's one thing that Big Hole Road definitely does play a role in, and that is continuity of government, COG, COG. And I learned a lot from a book I found while I was doing my research for Voices in the Shadows. And I'm going to get the name wrong, I'm going to butcher it, but essentially it's something like why deep underground military bases uh, and our government's plan for after the apocalypse and why they will survive, but we're all going to die. That was essentially the name of the book. But the book, it really was so well researched. It talked about so much of these things. And yeah, have you watched the movie? It's one of the most disturbing movies I've seen in a long time. It's fictional, and yet it is full of real life locations and things. It's called A House Full of Dynamite or A House of Dynamite. Have you heard of this movie?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No.
Well, hopefully you can check it out. I know sometimes people in New Zealand don't get to check it out. It's the same movies on Netflix as and different things as we do. But it's either A House of Dynamite or A House Full of Dynamite. And I won't spoil it, but essentially it's about exactly that continuity of government, the end of the world, mutually assured destruction, simultaneous atomic destruction. But essentially, at the very beginning of the movie, a missile, an intercontinental ballistic missile, is launched at the U.S. And we don't know who's launched it. And the movie basically locks you in with the government and the military as we are reacting to it. And that's the movie. It's not a feel good movie either. It's not a pick me up, but it will make you, as soon as that movie's over, it'll make you head out to your garage and be like, wait, do I have my old snout bag ready? I got a backpack, Lisa, in the garage, and I call it the old crap. And
The
it's
old crap
essentially
bag.
for, yeah, if the crap ever hits the fan, you
Yep.
grab that backpack and you're going to be at least better prepared to make it on your own or with
Yep.
those close to you for a little while.
Yeah.
You're going to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
slightly better prepared if you can just grab that backpack. And so it's sitting there and I mean, it made me watching that movie go out there and grab it and make sure that thing's ready to roll. But yeah, there's just no getting around it. You asked about the US, and I think I'm a believer in the Roswell incident,
Yep.
1947. And there's rumors that there was an incident in Italy,
Mm-hmm.
that uh, there was a UFO crash there, I believe under Mussolini, and that the U.S. somehow took possession of that. Now, if you believe any of those things to be true, then this essentially makes you reframe how you view everything, all of history. If you believe that an otherworldly craft crashed in Roswell, New Mexico in 1947, then it's impossible to look at the traditional standard view of history
Sure.
in just a normal way, right? Like,
Yeah.
how could
Yeah.
you do that? Everything suddenly means something different. Apollo, moon landings, the Army, you know, we had the Roswell incident, and then lo and behold, shortly after, we had the formation of the CIA and the formation of the Air Force. The Army had plans to establish a permanent base on the moon.
Mm-mm-mm.
That's not conjecture, that's a fact. And then NASA came out of nowhere. NASA sort of
Showed up.
took that sort of thing over. But I Lisa, I also grew up religious, and I feel
Mm.
like this is my personal opinion that the Bible and various religions, they sort of document humanity's interaction with the universe, and at least in the language that they could only put it in, that they knew how to put it in, right?
Sure.
And so I don't think those things are mutually exclusive. For some people, they put religion and the supernatural and science and all in different boxes, but I think they're all connected. I don't
Yeah.
think they're mutually exclusive at all. So I was, I got a little carried away there, but I believe that at some point along the way, I can't prove this, of course, but I believe that the U.S. government interacted with the phenomenon in some sort of real way.
Mm-mm-mm.
And if you believe that happened, then obviously they would never go back. Like they would,
Yeah.
if they could, become the dude, right? In ufology and crash retrievals and technology, reverse
Yeah.
engineering, if they had the capability, because there would be nothing short of humanity's existence on the line.
Yeah.
Like it literally would be that big of a deal.
I totally agree with you. So I'm a firm believer in Roswell happening. I have heard about the Italian one also, and there's obviously Russian um, incidences and that sort of stuff as well. In saying that, I think US is at the top of its game as far as military technology and um, everything else that we I think some of the paranormal things that we see, like the Glimmer Man and things like that, are reverse engineered technology or technology that we've been given. When I say we in quotation marks, the US government or the military industrial complex have acquired and then have reverse engineered or altered for their own benefit. And so when you look at things like, this is my opinion also, like when you look at things like AI, you look at these paranormal encounters that are happening, you could probably like look at the face peelers over in Peru, you know, that whole situation. That weren't aliens, weren't extraterrestrials, were very clearly some sort of a military operation going on. And when you look at things like that, you then have to go, okay, if we're sitting here on this level of humanity, of civilization, how far advanced are they? What we're getting and what we're being given, Chat GPT and a couple of like, you know, meme designs and some website designers for AI, what do they actually have? Are we 100 years behind the military industrial complex? Are we 500 years behind? I'm a firm believer in that happening, 100%.
Oh, yeah. You know, and that's another thing that has kept me diving down these rabbit holes is that sometimes I'm going to tell you a little something here. Sometimes we have guests on and they reveal things to us when we're done with the show that they wouldn't talk about on the air.
Sure.
And it's amazed me to the degree that our guests have revealed experiences with the supernatural or with the phenomenon. It's made me and CJ think and realize that, you know what, the general population must experience supernatural far more than we give it credit for. So we had a scientist on. I won't say his name, but after the show was over, this scientist, and a very well-known scientist, very respected in his field, but he wouldn't talk about these things on the air. After the show, this scientist tells us that, you know what, he's pretty sure his brother had been abducted by aliens, but he didn't think he had been. But he thought his brother had been abducted by aliens. And he said that his brother used to dream. He would have these dreams. And in the dream, he would wake up and look over to his bedroom window, and there would be a giant praying mantis staring into his window. And at some point, the scientist did come to the belief that his brother had been abducted by aliens. Now, he then went on to tell us something even more disturbing. He said one afternoon at his house, his son was in his room, and he walked by his room. He's on his way to his office. And he walks by his son's room. Son was like the age of yours, maybe 3 or 4, still sleeping in kind of, not a crib, but you know what I mean? Like a bed with rails on it. And there's another little boy. Maybe I shouldn't be telling you this story. There's another little boy in the room with his son. And he just has to, and he stops. And he's like, he just has to do a double take. Like, what the heck is happening here?
Sure.
And then the boy is gone, though. And he thought, okay, I've been working a lot, you know, I'm losing it. Well, he goes down to his office and he puts his boy to bed. Time for his nap. He goes down to his office and he gets startled later, and the boy is yelling, "Dad, Dad, come, come, come." And he rushes down there. He's like, "Son, what is it? What is it?" And the boy said that there was somebody else in the room with him during his nap, that another little boy was in the room with him.
Yeah.
And the scientist believes, or at least the insinuation was, that this was the phenomenon putting on some sort of pleasing form to interact with his son. And that's pretty disturbing, right? But that made me realize that, you know what, it's a thin line between you. That's what caught my attention when you were talking about ghosts early on tonight. It's a thin line, I think, between what we consider the supernatural, ghost, hauntings, that sort of thing, and UFOs, aliens, cryptids. You know, Bigfoot is spotted at a very high percentage in the same general areas as UFO sightings,
Yes.
interestingly enough. So I just think, is it some sort of thinning between dimensions or realities? I don't know. What do you think? Do you agree with me
Yeah.
that there's some sort of web here that's connecting all this?
Yeah, that's my view on it as well. I'm a firm believer in different dimensions and interdimensional travel, for want of a better word. Um, I in New Zealand we have our native culture, our indigenous culture, the Māori people. They do the haka and they have the tāmoko on their face, and they're really, when they do that haka, they're really scary, right? It's like a war, an act of war, right?
Yeah,
But
I've seen that.
the Māori people are beautiful, absolutely stunning, stunning, amazingly beautiful, hospitable people. And I grew up on a marae pretty much. I grew up in the middle of nowhere man's land. My best mates lived on the marae down the road, and we used to hang out together. And the same with Juliet. She grew up on a farm in the middle of the North Island. And so when we went to school, we learned Māori, we learned the culture, we learned the words, we learned the songs. We know a lot of, we could speak probably more Māori than we can any other language, culture, right? It's really ingrained into us. And we have this kind of understanding and this respect for the culture itself, and for the fact that they are guardians of the land. And I appreciate that wholeheartedly. They believe that there are 8 heavens. So in part of their mythology, they believe that there are 8 heavens and they are all around. There's no level as far as, like, Christianity, we believe the up and the down and very linear. The Māori culture today is very much circular. And there's 8 different heavens that you can go to. And it all depends on what you've done in your life and all of this sort of stuff that pushes you into a different heaven to go to. And it's not about necessarily doing good deeds. It's not about that necessarily, but it's about how you live your life and what you achieve and that sort of stuff. Anyway, so I'm I take that kind of view as far as kind of the heavens being our dimensions, if you will. And then I look at, I was listening to a podcast a long time ago when we first started Cryptid Women's Society, and they had an astrophysicist on who's also into, quantum physics and other things like that. And he was giving a theory around how he sees interdimension or dimensional kind of, I guess, dimensions layered upon each other and how it works. And so he was talking about if you had a field, like a paddock or a beautiful field, and you had all of these fields kind of set up above each other, and each one had a giant daisy growing out of it. And then that crossed onto the other field, and then that crossed, and that's the cross point, right? And so all of these daisy fields crossed over, and that's the cross point of these dimensions. And so then you can have multiple dimensions. There's no number, it's infinity. And so I kind of went, yeah, I would see having kind of this indigenous cultural aspect of these 8 different heavens, if you will, 8 different dimensions, all crossing over with the ability to show yourself or show as an entity within those different dimensions. So long story short, I agree.
That's good. I like that analogy with the daisies. You
Mm.
know, I brought a little cryptid surprise here if you want to
Oh my
hear. I
gosh,
actually
yes,
have some
please.
Bigfoot audio.
Oh my gosh, yes, please. Speaking of interdimensional entities.
Yeah. Well, let me set this up. So, and this is one of the most intriguing Bigfoot stories we've ever done. So, we got sent some audio from an encounter. This took place on the Virginia Kentucky line in the
Okay.
United States on the East Coast. And the guy sent us the audio, and I just wanted to dig into it a little bit before we did a podcast on it, right? And so I listened to it. I thought, man, it's pretty wild, but I wonder if there's some explanation for it, right? And uh, I all I could come up with was maybe an elk or something. And so I did some research, and I've discovered that in the same area where this guy was, in the vicinity, there's a known elk herd, right? And I thought,
Yeah.
I hate to break it to the guy, but I figured it out that he was
Mm.
recording these elk,
Yeah.
but I wanted to be sure. So I contacted an elk podcast. Yes, there is such a thing as an elk podcast. They have a lot of followers. And they're actually kind of in that area as well. And I sent them the audio and he listened to it. I didn't tell him anything else about it. He said, and I was shocked when he wrote me back. He said, you know what? I don't know what that is, but it's not elk. And it's also not any other animal that I've heard out here. And I thought, oh snap! Matter of fact, to him, it sounded on the realm of human-like, but not human. That's from the guy at the Elk podcast, and I didn't give him any details about it. I didn't even
Sure.
email him because sometimes from our email address, people automatically
Mm.
start, thinking paranormal or something. I emailed him from a different address. Well, when he said that, I thought, hold on now, we got something here. I said, we got to dig
Wow.
into this. So this is the audio that this guy recorded. He was out there working on a job in the forest, and this is the audio that he recorded. Let me see if I can
This is one
share
of my
my.
this is one of the funnest parts of doing podcasts and having interviews and stuff, especially because I'm in New Zealand. I'm at the bottom of the world. And I love the fact that we get to like kind of experience this together over in, over in the States and in the Northern Hemisphere. It's so cool.
Oh yeah, well here we go. Can you see my screen that I'm sharing
Yeah,
here? This is on my
absolutely.
Twitter. So our Twitter is at Unexplained. And Lisa, I've got the audio set where you should be able to hear it. Let me know if you don't.
Those, I guess they were kind of like house too, but the first set of vocalizations I heard.
And the guy here, could you hear
Was
that, Lisa?
the
His
Sorry,
name's Harley.
you'll have to do it
long,
again because it
drawn
just
out, like
froze.
wailing sound, and
Yeah, and I've got
those.
some of that, and I think this clip is even more interesting.
There's like a guttural grunt at the end
That's
of it,
it. That's the one.
though.
Let me start that back from the beginning.
Yeah. Mm.
If that don't send chills down your spine.
I want to give a shout out to UFO Intros. Our friend said my brother recorded the same sound.
What's up,
Listen to that. And I got to tell you, and I'm going to start this first clip. It's a little longer, but I'd like to say something while this is going on. I get the sense when I hear this.
Those.
What did you think about that, Lisa?
Wow. That sounded to me like a lion's roar almost.
Oh, yeah. I
Right.
could
And
just tell you,
so,
though, no lions in Kentucky and Virginia.
yeah, do they have big cats over there?
No.
Yeah,
Well,
so
there's probably maybe
like a
there
bobcat.
might be some sort of bobcats, mountain lions, some sort of maybe a black. Some people say there's black panthers, something, that sort of thing.
But even then, like, I mean, look, they don't sound like that. And the reason why I said it sounds like a lion or like that kind of deep kind of growl, roar lion thing, but it changed. It kind of almost went into a howl, like a dog howl, and then it was really odd. But that is something very similar to what I heard in the Tararua Ranges next to my house when Juliet and I went up there and we had our what we think is a Bigfoot encounter.
Oh,
Really
I'll
similar.
I'll send you that clip where y'all can
Yeah.
listen to it more carefully and analyze it.
That's really, really interesting. That's And that's long as well. It's not just one. That lasted a long time.
Yeah, it did. Do y'all have elk and that sort of thing
No,
there?
no.
And
So we don't
oh,
have in New Zealand, we have no apex predators. The only thing that we have is stag, like big deer, male deer. And they sound really weird when it's mating season, but certainly not like that. We don't have big cats. We don't have coyotes or wolves or bears or anything like that. So if you hear something like that, it's either a human or it's something unexplained.
right,
Yeah.
right. And that's why I think it's so important. When you're going, like, say, on a Bigfoot expedition, like I see
Mm,
this mistake sometimes people make where they broadcast where they're going, and I just
sure.
feel like that's not that's not appropriate. You shouldn't say where you're going because then you open yourself up to being pranked or having other people there, to mess with you and that sort of thing.
Totally. And I mean, look, I get it. I've grown up in the bush, like Julia and I have both grown up in the bush, big knives by ourselves, not a problem for hours, hours and hours and hours. And the only real danger that we have are other humans, essentially. In Australia, it's a little bit different. But even then, you still don't have these massive apex predators, right? That are going to cause you anything major issues for your safety. And so even saying, oh, maybe it was a human pranking me, you're in the middle of freaking nowhere land. The idea that somebody is going to sneak up a freaking pine tree covered hill with a sonophone, and stand there and scream into this friggin' thing. And number one, not screw it up. And number two, actually not roll down the hill whilst doing it. And then not make superhuman sounds on the way back down. Or do you know what I mean? Like the
Oh
likelihood
yeah.
of somebody even achieving the feat of that is just, why would you waste your time? And I get it. People hoax people all the time for the fucking fun of it, right? But most of the time when you're hearing things like that, and also the other thing that comes with that, and I know we know Harley quite well, as far as just quite a credible source as well.
Oh,
And so I love the fact that you've got his work, because he's sent me dog man pictures and all sorts of stuff. Like he's had heaps of encounters. And he's a cool dude, man. And we've tried to get him on
yeah. Oh
a
yeah.
couple of times, but we just can't seem to connect the dots yet. It's kind of like, us hanging out for 2 years and then hanging out. you know.
I
But one of
understand.
the things that happened on our encounter is we had this kind of infrasound sort of deal where almost you felt the reverberations come through your body, if you will, of this roar, and then it got sucked back in. And the only way that I can kind of describe that part, and Juliet didn't feel it the way that I did, I felt like, when you drop a big rock off a bridge into water, deep water, and it goes bloop, and it sucks the sound back down. That's what it was like. It literally kind of came through us and then got sucked back in. And it was the weirdest thing I've ever experienced, because sure, sound is one thing, but that feeling of having all that energy sucked back into that same direction, that was the part that really got me. I was like, that is wild, man. I've never experienced anything like that before.
Yeah. The thing is, you can't fully actually roll out line because let me tell you about a crazy thing that happened here in North Carolina. This happened in the mountains, and it was quite a long time ago. Whenever Wild Bill Hickok was around, are you familiar with Wild Bill Hickok and Annie Oakley? So they had this like traveling Wild West show at one point. It was sort of like a traveling circus. Annie Oakley was this like legendary gunslinger, with a deadly shot, and Wild Big Bill Hickok was this famous Wild West gunslinger, and they had this traveling show, and part of their traveling show was all these wild animals,
Mm.
and they still talk about this incident today. It was so horrific. They were crossing. They were on a train, and they were crossing this really high bridge over this like huge mountain gap, in the mountains in North Carolina, and something happened, and the train derailed with Wild Bill on there, Annie Oakley, but also all these exotic animals, lions, tigers, giraffes, etc. And so all these animals, careened off into the ravine, and they said obviously a lot of them perished in the train wreck. But the rumor is some of them disappeared. And so it's quite possible, right, that in the North Carolina mountains where we do have a lot of Bigfoot festivals because of encounters and that sort of thing, a lot of famous sightings take place in North Carolina mountains. It's quite possible that for some period of time, some of it could have been a lion or a tiger or an orangutan.
Yeah.
Another wild theory I had somebody give me at a festival, a conference out there in the North Carolina mountains. They knew about the train also, and their theory was, and this was even wilder, was that some of these animals, the bears and the gorillas, they mated with the local Bigfoots.
I knew you were going to say it. I knew you were going to say it.
And they produce these like super hybrid Bigfoots of like from the exotic animals and the Bigfoots, and that there's these like new sort of hybrids out there. So
I knew you were going to say it. I was like, he's going there. He's totally going there.
I can't take credit. That was just a dude at the festival. And
he's got a good brain because that's what I was thinking too. It's obviously into breeding, 100% into breeding.
I know. Well,
I'll back you on the lion idea though, because so New Zealand has had heaps of exotic animals come over. They brought zebras and let those go. They brought moose. There's still moose sightings down in the Fiordlands, which are in the South Island, right? Super dense forest. So they didn't bring a huge population of moose, for example, right? They only brought maybe 2 or 4 of them. That's not enough for a breeding population over the last 150 years. How did they survive, and why is there still sightings? That's the part that gets me, right? If you look at, ecosystem, food, shelter, water, all of the above that's needed, you still need to have mating pairs. You still need to have enough of these animals to create a mating population, right? A sustainable or semi-sustainable population for that long. So even with the lion theory, even if there was 2 and they were a mating pair and they even had, were pregnant and had babies, they still can't keep crossbreeding on those lines. Otherwise you end up with, mutations. So how? The mathematics.
That's a good question.
Don't do the mathing.
That brings me to something I wanted to ask you. What is your theory on the Tasmanian tiger?
Oh my God!
Is it still out there?
Yes.
Have you been on a search for the Tasmanian tiger? What do you think?
So love that. Juliet and I, along with Brittany Barbieri, I don't know if you know Brittany, but she is part of our founding membership. She's just filmed the Lost Monster Files. And her colleague, Dr. Marissa Tellez, who lives over in Belize, contacted us and were like, we want to look at the Tasmanian tiger. What do you think? And so we went, okay, well, we'll start doing some research. And this was about a year ago or so. And we started researching it, talking to eyewitnesses for their accounts, looking really deep into credible sources. A lot of the people that are researching the Tassie tiger or the thylacine are superficial and sensational, full stop. Like, they're just full of shit. They're clutching at straws, dragging those puppies out as long as humanly possible. In saying that, there are a bunch of credible eyewitness encounters. We spoke to a woman and her husband and her 13-year-old son, who was sitting in the back of the car, driving down this this old like dirt road traveling from the north of Australia down towards the Kimberleys, one of the Alice Springs, I think they were going to, which is a very like kind of remote area. And they were on, it was like, God, New Year's Day or something. And I spoke to her that day. And she had to stop the car to allow two, what she would think as juvenile thylacines, to cross the road. And she said they didn't just cross the road, they pounced across the road. And she said the reason why I think they're juveniles is because they had these really long bodies. She thought they were emaciated. She thought she could see ribs on these things, but she said they didn't. They had lines from like the kind of middle of their back all the way down, these super long tails. They had really long bodies, like sausage dogs almost to a point, really like kind of out of touch legs. Like their legs were like really short and stumpy and their feet were huge. And they had these giant bear kind of rounded ears on their head. And she said they just looked like they needed to grow into their bodies. She said, you know, when you see like puppies that are obviously going to be huge and they have those massive feet, she was like, they just look really out of whack, out of proportion. And they looked like they needed to grow into their bodies. And she said the other really weird thing that really set her off was this prehistoric type of jaw. I mean, she was that close that she could see all of these sort of details on them. And the best part is she goes, we're talking to her over the phone, and she goes, hey, honey, talking to her husband, hey, honey, what did you think they were? And he goes, coyote mated with a zebra. He goes, I don't know. Dingo mated with a zebra. Something like that. Yeah. And he was gobsmacked, and he was just like, I don't know what that was. And she was like, I do, because I've seen them on television. Like the thylacine is everywhere in Australia. You can't see them in life, but they're everywhere. They're on stamps, they're on chocolate, they're on the walls, there's paintings of them, all sorts. So when you see one in real life, you're going to know what it is because you've been brought up with them everywhere. Like Bigfoot over in America, you see pictures of them everywhere, you know. And so she was such a credible witness, really amazing eyewitness account. And her son was, you know, parroting exactly the same sort of story when I spoke to him at the same time. And that was really wild. So my view, I think the CWS view probably on whether or not the thylacine is still running around the mainland of Australia, because essentially they were Tasmania only, right? They're meant to be extinct on the mainland of Australia for the last 20 to 25,000 years. A long time, right? However, we have credible eyewitnesses that would tell us that these things are still running around in the wild on mainland Australia. 100%.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Crazy, right?
I think they're out there. And maybe y'all will be the ones to finally
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, we
get one
definitely
up
have
to you
expeditions
on
planned.
video.
Apparently they love bacon. So I suggested to Juliet that we just, you know, wash her with bacon soap. That was my solution.
Well, you know what else you could try? And I had to order myself some of these off Amazon. You can still get them. One of the Bigfoots in the mountains of North Carolina that's very famous. One of the videos is somebody got one on thermal, and the guy, he uses Zagnut bars as Bigfoot bait.
What
Do you
is
know the
that?
Zagnut bar? It's a candy bar. It was very popular in the 80s. I don't know if you can really get them in the store anymore or not, but you can definitely get them on Amazon, for example. Zagnut, Zagnut,
Okay.
Zagnut. And so he uses Zagnuts as Bigfoot bait. And he's got this thermal image. You can see the Zagnut. It's sitting up on this like hollow log, and the Bigfoot crawls up to it. It's like reaching out like, oh, I want the Zagnut bar.
Oh my
So you could try
God.
bacon and Zagnuts.
There's something in it. There's something in that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, why don't you just come down to Australia, Tim, and we'll go on an expedition all together.
I'm in. Let's do it.
Fun would that be? I would love that. Hey, I've got a couple of questions to wrap us up if you don't mind. Would that be all
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Yes.
All right. So a lot of our members are kind of really excited about doing expeditions, doing research, investigations, kind of getting out there, especially doing some field work and groups and that sort of stuff. So you've interviewed, hundreds of people at this point, if not thousands. What common mistakes do you see people making when they first start researching or kind of getting in there? Do you have any that you kind of go, just stay away from that, or just make sure that you do this?
Yeah, that's a great question. And honestly, I think that my biggest advice for that would be to, well, one, don't have any preconceived notions. Like, be
Yeah.
willing to follow the evidence wherever it takes you. I think that some people have the misconception that being open-minded means accepting these paranormal ideas, these wild ideas about Bigfoots and UFOs and that sort of thing. But sometimes being open-minded means taking that evidence wherever it leads you, even if it is somewhere mundane or prosaic. Like,
Mm,
you have to be willing to go down any route that it takes you. You cannot steer it, with your own preconceptions, with your own preconceived biases.
yeah.
And so in my opinion, you really have to be open-minded. The other thing that I think really sets research apart is and you were just kind of talking about this, you got to be willing to get out in the field, to get out of your house at some point and off the computer and put some sort of reality to what you're looking into. I saw a quote a while back that really struck me. This was soon after I got back from Beast Games, the reality competition that I was
Yeah.
on by Mr. Beast. And the quote was, live every day like you're the main character of a movie. Like, do main character shit. That was the
Yes.
theme of the quote. Like, you're going to do main character shit. Okay. Like,
That's
how
so good.
boring would a movie or television show be if the main character just sat around on their phone or their TV or their computer
Mm,
screen the whole time? That would be the worst movie ever.
yeah.
And I find, and I don't always accomplish this, but if you set out to be the main character and to do that sort of stuff, then you're going to get somewhere. I've been lucky enough to visit the Roswell crash site within the last couple of years, and I've been lucky enough to visit the plains of San Augustine, New Mexico crash site, and I firmly believe there was something about me setting my feet in those locations and experiencing them that gave me a much deeper understanding of the things that I find on the computer, or the things that I read. And I think so that's my advice. Be open-minded and don't don't be afraid to get out in the field, even if you aren't exactly sure why you're going somewhere. If you feel called to go, do it, make it happen.
Yeah, that is the best answers. Absolutely. It was something Juliet and I talked about literally yesterday. We were like, it's about experience, right? You can't have an experience by watching a screen. You can't do that because there's no energy transfer. And exactly what you say, putting your feet on the ground there allowed you to really understand more of what you were doing and why you're doing it and experiences it. You have to go out and experience. I love that. So, and be the main character. Hell yeah.
Y'all are two main characters. Let me tell you, y'all are an inspiration. I'm
I'm like,
just a
I just want to be Relic Hunter. I just want to be Tomb Raider. Is that too much to ask for?
I mean, I already know if I do join y'all in New Zealand or Australia, I'm just going to be like a cheap backup, like that's
We'll be like,
Y'all
Tim,
are
have
the.
this big knife. And you'll be like, okay. Okay.
I got to rent Crocodile Dundee before I go
Oh
over
yeah.
there.
This is a knife, son. No, that's brilliant. I love it. That's really awesome information and
Well, you know
advice.
what? I brought something I can show you though,
Oh my
actually,
gosh, please.
and this is actually an extension of the answer I just told you. So the crash site I visited in the plains of San Augustine, I had been researching it for years as well. It is heavy in ufology and the lore as a UFO crash site that people have known about for a long time. Many researchers have been out there, and the exact location has never been revealed. But a lady by the name of Diana Pasulka, who's a religious expert professor down the road from CJ and myself, and this gets us into the realm of synchronicities, which is something I started picking up on post COVID.
Yeah.
I was talking about COVID earlier, pre and post. I never picked up on a synchronicity pre COVID. All of a sudden, I have
Really?
found myself immersed in them. Um, not just since COVID, but since I visited Roswell.
Mm.
I've found myself sensing and seeing all these synchronicities. Well, so Diana Pasulka wrote a book called American Cosmic, in which she details being taken by someone that she calls Tyler, along with Dr. Gary Nolan from Stanford, to a UFO crash site in New Mexico. That crash site was the crash in the plains of San Augustine. And I got to go there this past October. Part of the UFO lore that they have talked about and others have talked about is how at some point the military went out there and seeded this crash site with metallic debris. And the reason to throw off researchers, future researchers. This, me going out there, enabled me to step from just the realm of belief into the realm of verification, that I have verified now parts of their story. I've identified other parts that I believe are just red herrings that aren't quite true, but they're just like twist of the truth to kind of throw people off the track, because Diana and Gary never revealed exactly where they went either. But I was able to do the research with the help of a couple of others, friends of mine in Roswell, and we pinned down exactly where that crash site is. And then I used my skill set as a Southern boy to
Specific
give
skill.
somebody a call on the phone. I figured out who owns that land, and I gave him a call, and he ended up giving me permission to go out there. And when I went out there, Lisa, one of the things that became immediately clear is that this place, yeah, it is covered in old metallic debris everywhere. Probably 500 yards long, 100 yards wide.
Yeah.
Metallic debris everywhere, old, all of it old. So much of it, metal detectors completely useless. They just went off the whole time. It didn't matter what setting they were on.
Yeah.
I mean, cans, buckets, desk, chairs,
Holy
on and on
shit.
and on. Yeah, on and on and on. Well, and I could come up with no other. Now, before I went out there and set my feet out there, I did have other theories that could maybe explain that. Like, okay, I can see some people say ranchers just have this one particular place where they throw everything. Or I could see where they had these floods that come through New Mexico and it washed a bunch of stuff out there. But once I got out there, I realized no, none of those are logical explanations. Only one thing makes sense, and that is that the military did come out there and do this. But Lisa, there were no modern pieces of plastic or anything out there, but I found two things that were not metallic debris, and I've got them here with me. This one is an old Lucky beer bottle, Lucky premium brand beer. One of my friends from Roswell is texting me right now. My friend Paul Simones that does the Roswell UFO tours. He's investigating a 1960 hangar fire at the base there with me. Well, anyway, this is Lucky Premium beer bottle. And then I found this one. Look at this. About the same size, stubby. This is you probably can't see that. Oh, maybe. This is
yeah.
an Anheuser-Busch beer bottle. You see the eagle engraved there? And so I knew these were old and intact. And once I got back, I contacted a bottle company, and they were able to conclude that these are most likely from 1964. And why is that relevant? Because that is relevant because just a couple of years earlier, something became widely available to the public for the first time ever, and for research, and that was metal detectors. Metal detectors around 1961 became available to the public for the first time ever. And so me being out there in the field and locating these two bottles, these are only two things I saw out there and all of that wasn't very old metallic debris, told me that, you know what, I think that a couple of these military guys around 1964 were knocking these back while they were seeding this UFO crash site with all this metallic debris. And if nothing else, this validates the age of all that other metallic debris out there. And there's no good explanation for why around 1964, why all of that would just be dumped out there. Heaps and heaps and heaps of it. It doesn't make any sense. And there was only one way to get to that, and that was to finally get myself out there and see for myself.
I love it. That's what a finding. Far out. To
Thanks.
find, I mean, honestly, to find glass bottles intact, unbroken, that is a feat in itself. That means that nobody has been out there doing anything as far as, horsing around and doing other shit out there. Otherwise, they would have smashed those bottles, right? It's not like you dug them up, did you? You know what I mean? Like you didn't dig into the ground to find them. So,
well, and that's the other thing. We were out there all day scouring that site. We didn't see a single sign of any other sign of life whatsoever. I mean, humans, insects, birds, nothing.
Oh.
And although I will say you could not step without stepping on some form of scat out there, there was scat everywhere. Everywhere. And it made me realize, my God, what does it look like out here at night?
Yeah, what is going on out there?
It probably transforms at night. They do have some like some sort of big game out there. But yeah, I mean, so this notion that, and by the way, the Plains of St. Augustine crash was also the summer of 1947.
Same summer.
Same as Roswell. And this notion that in the 40s and 50s and 60s that there were all these people out there in the middle of nowhere in the desert, and they're just compiling up all this metallic debris and stuff. No,
What a crock.
I'm just not buying it.
You can't buy that. How can I spoke to a lady last Friday from Aruba, and she told me all about the giant bones that have been found over there and the elongated heads and all these amazing things. And I said to her, do you know, you have to try so hard to not believe this. You have to try so hard to go with the mainstream narrative. It's not an easy pull on that mainstream narrative. And exactly what you've just divulged, Tim, to us and shared with us, it is really hard to go along with the mainstream narrative. It is not easy because there's no logic in it, right? And anyone that has a brain that asks questions, that has common sense, any sort of common sense at all, can look at this and just go, that, why? Where's the logic in this? That is a really hard acceptance. It's a hard pill to swallow.
Right. But it was like I was saying, I wasn't going to get to the bottom of that on the computer though.
Yeah.
It just wasn't going to happen. It was going to be a dead end that we would never get past. And so people shouldn't put themselves at risk, or we went through a lot of precautions. I was out there with my friend Lee Starks, who has a couple of books out. One of them is called Orbit. It's about a UFO crash retrieval team. And Lee, he's former military, and we acquired the proper permissions to be out there. And so people have to be smart and, not put themselves in danger. But it's like I was saying, Lisa, at some point, the screen, there's a cutoff there, right? And you're only gonna find out so much there.
Yeah, you have to go and experience it. And exactly as you say, do it with safety in mind and do good prep beforehand. And we talk about safety a lot, especially being women. If you're going out by yourself, you have to take way more precautions than what you do if you're a guy going out anywhere, 100%. But at the same time, it shouldn't stop you. Just simply have to put precautions in place. Take a couple of friends with you, especially if you're going into the bush. Doesn't matter where you are. That's why I always take weapons with me. But mostly because I know how to use them. Don't take a weapon if you don't know how to use it, because a weapon in the wrong hands is way more dangerous to you.
Hold on, I'm making a
Okay.
little note here. Lisa, fast weaponry knowledge. Okay,
Just
got it.
know how to use it. Don't be like, I got to take a gun with me, but not know how to, take the safety off.
Well, and back in the day, that's one of those things that Unsolved Mysteries taught you, right? Like every week, somebody's going missing. Something bad's happening. I mean, you
That's
got to be
it.
ready. You got to be
Yeah,
ready.
yeah,
And,
absolutely. And it's, as we say, it's not the aliens that are going to abduct you. It's not Bigfoot that's going to cause you problems. 99% of the time it's humans, right? It's other humans that are the most dangerous. So be aware, be aware. Tim, you are freaking awesome. And it must be really late at your house now, and I appreciate you so much. I have one more question for you.
okay.
One more. We are currently, as of time of filming, almost at the end of 2025. We are in Juliet's birthday week. It's her birthday on Sunday. And it's Christmas time and New Year's and all that sort of stuff. Can you give us a wee little drop of what is happening for you guys next year? Is there anything that you can tell us without, spoiling the broth too much, to give us a bit of a tidbit?
Well, yeah, we do have some exciting things happening. First of all, we do have a book coming out. It's called Voices in the Shadows. It's with Schiffer Publishing. It essentially is the story of our podcast, and then it branches off from there into cryptids, into the phenomenon, and kind of where, based on all the people we've talked to, where we see things going. It's just where the evidence has led us, and it's kind of led down a dark path. I'm not gonna lie to you. So I think it's going to be a good book, in my opinion. It's got a lot of research in it. It's not a lot of, like trust me, bro, kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But just like I was sharing with you, Lisa, a lot of legitimate research that we put into it, and then put into the book. CJ, I got to be careful how I say this right now. In 2026, her dad, Larry, is the voice of our intro and outro,
Oh, cool.
and he is filming a reality competition television show right now.
Oh my
I can't,
gosh.
I can't, I no, I can't say
Don't you?
what?
You'll be in trouble.
I know. And he just started. So say a
Wow.
prayer
Oh my
as
gosh,
of
yeah, go
this.
Larry.
Yeah, because I don't know how he's doing, but I hope everything's going good.
Ah, I'm sure he's
So
having an amazing time. So
yeah,
is he doing voiceover for like the MC of the show, or is he
he
actually like a contestant or something on a reality show?
on the show he's a contestant.
Oh my God, really?
Yes,
Oh, it's even
and
more.
oh well, and Larry, he's amazing. He was a varsity college volleyball player in California, and CJ and I we kind of met at volleyball, sand volleyball in our neighborhood. But Larry, I believe he's 76 now,
Wow.
and Larry is getting after it on a reality competition show. I wish I could say more about it, but I
No, no,
can't.
he's the main character of his life right now, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah, right. And speaking of main characters, did you know that we are in a Patricia Cornwell book?
Are you?
Yeah, yeah. So I I don't have a copy within reach, but her one of her recent books, Identity Unknown. And by the way, she caught us by surprise with this. So she was coming on our podcast to talk about
Yeah.
her new book, Identity Unknown. And in Identity Unknown, one of the characters at the very beginning is an astrophysicist who bears a striking resemblance to Avi Loeb, and he's found dead and
Oh,
apparently killed, maybe by a UFO, of all things. Okay, well, she Patricia Cornwell, she sent us copies of the book before it came out, and CJ's much better at reading the books than I am. Well, I'm sitting around one night and I get a text on my phone, and he was like, and the text said, "Holy shit!" And I said, What happened?" She's like, "We're in Identity Unknown." So on page 164 in Identity Unknown, two of the main characters are talking, and they say out of nowhere that their favorite podcast is All Things Unexplained, and their favorite television show is Ancient Aliens, and they talk about watching it and listening to the show.
holy, that's wild. That's so
So
cool.
yeah, so we're in Identity Unknown by Patricia Cornwell. And
Wow.
we expect her to be back on to talk about her new book in 2026, which is going to delve into the supernatural.
Awesome. She's
So I
amazing.
believe,
I've heard the podcasts, the episodes with her, and she is just so interesting. Oh, wealth of knowledge.
oh yeah, and she's about to have a new show on Amazon Prime, based on her Scarpetta series, which Identity Unknown is in the Scarpetta series, and Nicole Kidman is playing Scarpetta. Is produced by Jamie Lee Curtis,
Oh
and it's
my
like I told CJ, we're
goodness.
technically we're in the Scarpetta universe. So
You sure are.
we we theoretically could be on the Amazon Prime show. So
Wow.
we'll see what happens. I'm still, and CJ is trying to dip her toes into the reality competition stuff as well. You and Jules should give it a thought, by
A
the
cool
way.
place to be in, isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe there's some, I don't know, some Josh Gates in our future. Who knows?
Oh, that would be exciting. You know, my son, I love Josh Gates,
Yeah.
Expedition
Well,
Unknown.
we had an amazing interview with Heather Amaro last week, who's co-host of Expedition X with Josh Gates.
Oh
And
yeah.
she's just phenomenal, such a cool person. And she's been in the paranormal space for, oh my God, years, like 23 years now. Her mother was a paranormal investigator, her grandmother, and it turns out her grandfather was really into it as well, and ufology and that sort of stuff back in the good old days. And she was just phenomenal and telling us all sorts of kind of locations that she was able to go to and all of the things that that sort of show has opened up for her. It's like, dream job, isn't it? So who knows? Just who knows, eh, Tim?
Oh yeah, that's super exciting. I can't wait for that. And so yeah, another thing that CJ and I have got coming out here soon I've been working on this for quite a while too, but it's a podcast. I started digging into the JFK files,
Oh, cool.
and yeah, one of the things that I've been able to discover and I found in there, I found where the CIA literally did an arranged marriage between a CIA asset and a lady. But the significant thing about the lady that I eventually was able to prove is that she was an American citizen. And so the CIA has recently been making some rounds on other podcasts saying, hey, we do not do ops on American citizens now or ever. And so we do have a podcast coming out very soon where the title is going to be something like, yeah, we proved the CIA did do an op on an American citizen. And not only was it an op, they literally arranged her marriage to a CIA asset to get closer to her circle of contacts. She was communist, as it turns out, during the Cold War. And so they arranged this marriage with the asset to get closer to her communist friends. So we'll have a podcast about that coming out soon. And so that'll be interesting. Another thing I talk about in Voices in the Shadows, which is our book coming out next year, is the cryptid that my friend Smitty and I kind of bonded over.
Oh my God, full circle. Look at us coming
Yeah, I
back
know,
to
right?
the start.
Exactly. I planned it completely that way. And that cryptid is Possum Head Man. Some people just call him Possum Head. Some people call him Possum Head Man. And he's got the head of course, the head of a possum and the body of a man. And I tell more about our experience with that. But
can you just explain to me what this cryptid is? Obviously, possum head man body. Where is he found? What's the lore around him? Is he?
Well, Possum Head is said to reside in an area of rural North Mississippi called Dumas, Mississippi. And the wild thing is, I used to work this summer job at a shirt factory in Pontotoc County, Mississippi, and I can't say his real name, but I had a friend there that worked also. I mean, he was like a stereotypical Mississippi redneck kind of dude, right? And his name, I'll call him. His name was the same as a famous sci-fi character. I'll put it that way. And anyway, yeah,
Boba Fett. No,
Boba
Darth
Fett.
Vader?
That's a good
God,
a good name for it. Boba Fett. We call him Boba Fett. And so Boba, we were sitting around his shirt factory one day, and we had actually made a bet. This is how bored we were. Like it was a box of staples, and the box said something like 10,000 staples. So Boba was like, "I bet you there's not 10,000 staples in there." I'm like, "You're on." So we started counting them, right? And he starts telling me that him and his little brother and their grandpa, they were riding their four-wheelers out to go catfishing in the creek. And in Mississippi, I used to go catfishing in creeks all the time too, especially after it rained and the water went back down there. It'd be deeper holes of water where the catfish get trapped, And so they're riding their four-wheelers off to the catfish hole. And he tells me, and this is just very matter-of-factly while we're doing this staple counting, he tells me, and Possum Head Man jumped out from the trees and knocked me off my four-wheeler and ran me off the road, nearly killed me, and scared my grandpa and my little brother. And he just kept counting after he told me that. I was like, wait, what did you just say? He said, yeah, Possum Head Man. It got the head of a possum, body of a man. Well, I told a friend of mine that was a mailman at the time about this story. Well, and he passed it on one day, years later, at the post office in that area, Dumas area. Another one of those mailmen knew about Possum Head Man. And then and it's like, wow. So my friend up until that time just thought that's crazy talk. And then my friend, the mailman, he's on his way to work one morning. It's like 4 a.m., super dark, And he's driving down the road and a bird comes out of nowhere and gets just like lodged onto the antenna of his truck. And my friend stops his truck, opens the door, and walks out in front of the truck. You know, the headlights are shining out through there, and to pull the bird off the antenna of the truck, and something, and his car door shuts, his truck door shuts, and he hears something snarling, and he sees like a couple of eyes glowing, and he freaks out, and he tries to get back in his truck, but the door is locked. Truck's running, door's locked. So he's so terrified, he jumps in the back of his truck, and my friend, the mailman, and Boba and I actually used to play on these men's softball teams together. So he had this old softball bat he bought at Walmart in the back of his truck. And this is how terrified he was. He smashes the back glass out of his truck and hurls himself through the back glass and whoops it into gear and gets out of there. He of course is convinced that he had an encounter with Possum Head Man. Well, years later, I get a teaching job at a small school in North Mississippi that my friend Smitty was already a teacher at. And we're just shooting the breeze one day, and Possum Head Man comes up, and he knows about Possum Head Man too. And not only that, but another lady we work with lives in Dumas, and she was like, "Yeah, Possum Head Man. They used to warn us, like, don't go out at night. You know, they wouldn't let us go out at night and go wandering around because Possum Head Man might get us." So that's the cryptid I talk a little bit about in the book too, Possum Head Man.
What is Possum Head Man possibly going to do? Eat the grapefruit around you? Like,
I don't know.
I don't know. And maybe our possums are different. I don't know. We have possum in New Zealand, and all they do is friggin' eat all the nice fruit, right? They stand outside your window in the moonlight, and they go, and it's horrible, and it scares the living crap out of you because they sound terrible. But they're fluffy. We make gloves out of them. We make hats out of them. We make nipple warmers out of them, Tim. You can get
Out of
bikinis
possums?
made out of possums. 100%. So maybe
Wow.
we've got different possums. I'm not sure, but they are cute, and they've got giant eyes, and they've got like windy tails, and
Yeah. They're rodents.
sure. And we shoot them with a 22 out of a tree, man, and then we make clothing out of them. So like, what is Possum Head Man gonna do to you?
Well, you know, there's a town in Florida that has a possum festival every year. And back during the Great Depression, which my parents both went through the Great Depression,
Yeah.
let's just say there was little to nothing to eat. And this town in Florida, they literally got by on eating
I mean,
possums. And so
yeah.
to this day, they have the possum festival. But there is are you, I'm not sure I should tell this or not, but it's just science. Are you aware of the interesting anatomical anomaly of male possums?
No. Where are we going?
And I think this explains something to do with Possum Head Man, though exactly what I'm not sure. But the male possum has a bifurcated penis. Yeah. What does he do with that? I don't know what he does with it exactly either. But you know, we were talking about the hybrid
Tim.
situation, and I mean, and you know, rural Mississippi and Alabama is known for some things that ain't exactly
Well,
polite to talk about.
there's
So in terms
laws.
of hybrids and
Laws.
stuff.
Do you know what Tim? Do you know what we do in New Zealand? Okay, so my daughter, who's now 20, comes home when she was like, I don't know, 13 or something, 12 or 13 from English class, right? And she goes, "Can you help me do my English homework?" And I was like, "Sure, honey." And her English homework was to research the weird laws that the US has about animals. Things like you cannot have a bath with a donkey. And so we laugh about you wonderful American people and the laws that have been enacted in your states because obviously somebody has already tried it.
Yeah, but you know, it's very interesting you say that because I kind of came on to talk a little bit about aliens, and we have
Yeah.
had guests on our show. Okay, and there's a lot of rumors of this stuff happening. We've had guests on our show that one particular guest told us that they know a businessman that routinely goes down to a local motel and meets up with an insectoid to engage in insectoid human relations at the motel. And there's other accounts of this sort of activity happening, but I'm fascinated with the law, and we're talking about the law now. It is my contention that such activity would actually be illegal because that's not a human. That's bestiality or some sort of illegal activity if you're doing some things with something that's alive but ain't a human. But I'm just saying.
Uh,
Another that's
and as we say, Tim, like we're not here to judge people or give our
no,
opinions or
not
like
that there's
make
anything wrong with
whatever.
that.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, sure.
There just might technically be something
Um,
illegal about
but
it, but
it's
that's not
interesting.
for us.
Hey, what are your thoughts like talking about aliens? Juliet and I were having a giggle,
Oh, I
having a
know where you're
giggle
gonna
about
go.
having a giggle about alien channelers, people that, they're on TikTok, they're on YouTube channeling alien entities. What are your thoughts on that? Because we find some of them absolutely hilarious. And do you think they're real? Do you think
Well, it
they're
sounds like you're talking about CE5 events, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, and there's a
No,
lot
no,
of
no.
people.
I
No?
believe in CE5. No,
Oh,
100%.
okay.
I've had my own close encounters, that sort of stuff. But people that channel, like Bashar, for example, he sits there and channels some sort of alien entity. But there's lots of other ones that include a lot of women who will do light speaking or do some sort of a channeling from an alien entity. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thought on that is they better hope it's fake because what's the quote? Be careful when you're looking into uh, the darkness because the darkness might come back up with you,
Mm,
you know?
mm, mm, mm.
Um,
Yeah.
because I believe that there is a reality there, a dark side
Mm,
there. And I don't think it's somewhere that people really want to be going down.
yeah.
But for that reason, I hope that it's probably fake because I believe that it could also not be fake. And if it's not fake, man, they better be careful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, what are your thoughts then? That leads me to my next question. What are your thoughts? Are alien entities innately good, innately bad? Is there two different groups? Ones that are here to take over the Earth, reptilians, if you will, and the good version? What you've done so much research on them. What's your thoughts on what they actually are?
Yeah. Well, and this is not necessarily a popular take, but all of the vast majority of the people we've talked to and the things that we've discovered have led us to believe that there is certainly a malevolent side to all this.
Mm, mm,
Now, does that mean the question is, does that mean there's definitely a good side, a benevolent side? And if you are religious, then you're inclined to say, yes, there's good versus evil.
mm,
But we also have to address the possibility that the malevolent side can disguise itself in a benevolent way, sort of like I alluded to earlier with the boy in his room,
mm,
and
mm.
that we are under the false impression that there is some sort of benevolent guide out there when in fact we're simply being deceived by the more malevolent side. And there are researchers, like there's a popular thing out there right now about some researchers that have analyzed some uh, data, some scan data of the pyramids, speaking of Egypt.
Sure.
And those
Yeah.
researchers, there's a lot of false uh, ideas about this. People say these researchers have found things underneath the pyramid structures. That's not exactly the case.
Yeah.
But the reality is actually much more disturbing, Lisa, because I started looking into the lead researcher, Malanga,
Mm.
because something about his background caught my attention. Now, if you just skim through Twitter, you're going to believe that they took this data and they found these structures under the pyramid. But what they actually did was they took pre existing data and they used some sort of proprietary method of analysis to develop a theory that there could be some structures underneath the pyramid, right? Which is, and by the way, they're not in Egypt. The researchers, they're not there like digging in the sand or anything.
Sure.
That this theory that something's under there is vastly different than that they have discovered something under the pyramid. That's not the case. But where it gets really weird is when you look into the background of the researchers, you find out some things like Malanga. Guess what the majority of his previous research has been in? Alien abductions.
Ooh.
And he came to the conclusion after interviewing many alien abductees that this was a malevolent entity interacting with our consciousness and fooling us in many cases so as to get something that they needed from us. Not only that, but Malanga and the other researcher Biondi, they were part of this Stargate group in Italy. And they
Really?
kind of got on the outs with this Stargate group and went and started another Stargate group. Malanga's work is very disturbing. He believes that these entities abduct us, that they have been involved in creating hybrids and creating clones of
Mm.
humans. They are actually, this is what I've come to the conclusion of, and I've got a long podcast on this. If you look into their backgrounds, there's no other way to do it. If you go to their YouTube page, you're going to see a Stargate on their YouTube page. I think they believe there's a Stargate somewhere in the pyramids or under the pyramids, and that in our ancient past, the rulers of that land, maybe it wasn't even called Egypt back then, were offering some sort of human soul sacrifices to interdimensional alien beings. This sure sounds like a far cry from my being open-minded talk earlier, right? To interdimensional parasitic alien beings. Uh, they were giving them human souls
Yeah.
through the Stargate, and in return, they themselves were receiving some sort of power, long-lived life, that sort of thing in return. And we've heard rumors about the pharaohs and ancient rulers of humanity about along those lines. So that's the dark side of that pyramid story.
Wow, I did not know that. I didn't know about the Stargate. I knew that I knew that they did not discover anything under the pyramid. I knew that it was a theory. And what I thought they did was actually used some sort of a satellite LiDAR, if you will, to see some sort of a room. There was rooms or there was voids or something like that underneath the pyramid, but let alone all of the fucking twisty coils and all the other rubbish that came out with it. I didn't realize. So they haven't done any of that sort of stuff. It's just theorized.
Those are theories.
They're all
And not
theories.
only are they theories, they are proprietary theories of their own. In other words, they're also not duplicable. So
Yeah,
if you and I wanted to duplicate their results,
we simply
we
couldn't.
cannot do that because it's their own secret method of analysis. And this data, by the way, that these scans already exist. So if Lisa wants this scan data, you can get the scan data. And basically, what they showed, they measured like slight changes in location of corridors, stones, that sort of thing, like minute changes.
Yes.
Think of it like your house settles over time and things move and shift around, right? And based on those results, they have used some sort of methodology to come up with a theory that there's structures under there. But again, this is not boots on the ground. They're not. This is not somebody digging in the sand. First of all, they're
One,
probably never going to get permission to do that.
no, 100%. And also, like, if you're not going to share your method and your system behind it, your process behind it, then how can it be scrutinized? Well, it
It
can't.
cannot.
Thank you.
And so it's up to everybody to make of that what they will.
Wow. Okay,
But
so
there is one thing beyond doubt. The
okay.
fact of the matter is there is no doubt about this. They are into stargates and they are into alien abduction.
Yeah,
And that's a fact. Now,
yeah. Bias? Yeah, sure, right? We've all got preconceived ideas before we go into any sort of research. So what they're talking about is potential loosh, right? Which is energy, in soul transfer, energy transfer.
maybe. Definitely something to do with our souls, though.
Yeah. Oh man, that's deep. Wow, we could go. Oh my God. Hey, Tim, do you know we're planning on going on an expedition to Egypt next year?
Oh, no. That'll be
Yeah,
amazing.
I know. So one of our members has just said to us, there's a full eclipse for 6 minutes in August, and we're like, oh shit, we've got to go.
Oh, yeah.
We've got
That's
to
like
go.
some
So
Indiana Jones stuff right
yeah.
there.
So apparently there's theories that, or there's these ideas that through this eclipse in August, there will be a door in quotation marks or a portal that will open in the Sphinx feet or in its paws, and you'll be able to walk in there and collect the Akashic records or the Atlantic library or something along those lines.
Wow. Who knows? Maybe you'll find the Ark of the Covenant.
God, it's totally there.
We had a major revelation about the Ark of the Covenant on All Things Unexplained.
Oh my God, can you tell us?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's out there. We had Lynn Buchanan, who's a former remote viewer for the government. We know that the CIA had a remote viewing program, and he was a part of that. And the reason we had him on, and this was actually CJ Mine's pastor idea, is because it was in the news. The CIA declassified this document where they were using remote viewers, one to look at Mars in 1 million BC for some reason, and then two to remote view the Ark of the Covenant. That was a declassified document. So we had him on to talk about that. And CJ asked him, said, do you know where the Ark of the Covenant is? We didn't know what he'd say. He said, yes. Yes, I do. I know where it's at. And it's safe. And it's guarded. That's what he said.
Oh my God. By who?
Well, he wouldn't say, but he did say that as you were approaching it, that it was along the way, there were all these statues or golems, and they were like the demons from different religions and philosophies, and that they were there to scare away or to deter anyone from approaching it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's
And he
wild.
said that there was something in charge of protecting it and that it definitely was safe.
Far out. Oh my
So
God.
maybe
How
it's in
many
Egypt.
how many groups have been after the Ark of the Covenant, right? How many?
Oh, yeah.
Just
A lot, plenty. I mean, he said he's heard people who mention the right location, just not mention it or just not say it quite right. We're not sure what he meant by that, but that's what he said.
God, that's wild. I've heard lots of different theories as to where the Ark of the Covenant is and where it still is. And oh, that's a huge topic. Far out. What an interview that would have been. Oh, I've got to go back and listen to it. That's wild.
Oh yeah, that was great. And
Mm.
I just find all that so fascinating. Again, that whole rabbit hole thing because um, the remote viewing program, it got started because the Russians were doing remote viewing, and the United States was like, "Hey, we better get on this remote viewing thing, right?" But where would they go? Well, they went to somewhere quite, what I would say, unexpected. They went to a man by the name of Hal Puthoff, and you may have heard of Hal Puthoff before. Hal Puthoff, though, was no remote viewer. Hal Puthoff was a scientist whose specialty was lasers. And Lynn told us about the study that Hal did that attracted their attention. Now, this got me down a deep rabbit hole, and I actually managed to procure Hal Puthoff's dissertation from university. And sure enough, it's on lasers. It's not the exact study Lynn was referring to, but it's deep, heavy mathematics and physics. I mean, deep. And you've got to say to yourself, how in the world do you go from that to remote viewing and UFOs? Well, the study that Hal did that caught the attention of the CIA was that they were measuring these particles, and out of nowhere, they discovered that the intention and attention of the physicist affected the particles.
Yeah.
Now, think about that for a second. But guess what? You won't find that study, though. I know I've tried, but I do believe that it happened. He obviously was in that research. That was his specialty, lasers and those physics and things. And then all of a sudden he's out of the laser academic field and he's working for the government doing a remote viewing program. It's so fascinating, right? Like it just boggles the mind.
Yeah, and you just kind of sit there and you go, what did they have in mind for him? Like, why? What was his purpose? Or what was the bigger vision that somebody sitting in that program going, oh my God, I found this guy and he could be perfect for Did he achieve the goal that they wanted him to achieve? Like, what was it?
I think he's still working on it. And then you got other people involved, like Eric Davis now, you know, and that was a wild thing that happened recently. Eric Davis testified uh, in front of Congress in a hearing. It was more of a briefing. And out of nowhere, he told them about insectoids and grays and the crash at Roswell. And he let it slip that he interviewed a couple of people from the Roswell incident. And then later that afternoon, Hal Puthoff was on Joe Rogan. And he talked about Eric Davis's interview and research into the Roswell incident. Before that time, I talked to my friend Paul about this, the one that does the UFO tours in Roswell. We're not aware that anybody had ever known that Eric Davis had looked into the Roswell incident. And get this, I'll tell you something creepy about Eric Davis. Another rabbit hole for you. Try to determine how old he is. You know what? I find now that anybody I've ever wanted to know the age of, I've been able to successfully determine it.
Mm.
But you ask AI or just Google, how old is Eric Davis? Nah, you're not going to find it. He has no known birth date.
Huh.
Pretty
Okay.
weird, right?
Jesus, I'm going to be researching for friggin' months.
Let me know if you find it, but seriously, he has no known
Yeah.
birth date. And why would
So
that be? I don't know.
I love the Joe Rogan podcast, right? There's so many, and not for the fact of his podcast, right? I love the conspiracies that are wrapped around it and the theories as to whether or not he's a psyop, is he a plant? You only get so big because you've been allowed to get so big, all of that sort of stuff. So having someone like Eric, having someone like sorry, the other gentleman that you missed,
Hal put off.
Hal, that I was gonna say Bob. Hal. Was a
George.
three-letter word. Having Hal on there, do you think that was a wee beautiful setup to have, the likes of Eric come in and do this kind of discussion in the middle of Congress and then have Hal on there backing that?
Oh,
Essentially.
there was definitely some sort of coordinated timing
Sure.
with all that. Now, that's not me saying that Joe Rogan is a psyop or
No,
anything,
neither.
but I mean, Joe Rogan is hard to comprehend for the simple
Mm.
fact that I mean, he's essentially the largest form of entertaining news uh, ever in the history of humanity.
Mm.
I mean, think about that for a second.
Mm.
And by the way, I saw where the most listened to podcast ever. This only just happened. It's been viewed more than any other podcast ever. Guess and this is across all podcasts. Guess what episode with what guest that is? It's
Elon
Joe
Musk.
Rogan. Nah, Joe Rogan with Bob Lazar.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine that.
It's officially I believe I'm correct in this, the biggest podcast, singular podcast ever.
Wow. Yeah, I can understand that though, because I rate Bob Lazar. I rate his story as far as credibility and kind of things that have occurred years after him talking about it, and yeah, that sort of stuff. Like, element 116 or whatever it is, being, or 115, I guess it is, and being, put onto the periodic table and that sort of stuff after the fact. But one of the things that really got me with Bob Lazar was when he kind of went into the idea of the files that he found in the filing cabinet about humans being a vessel.
Yes.
Yeah, that really kind of made me go, whoa, man, have you gone? Like, it just felt like he's gone from being a scientist into being something totally different. And I just kind of I didn't mesh with that. And I don't know why. There was something really odd about it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there's a lot to that. But then I actually use an analogy a cryptid analogy for Bob Lazar, because I know that there's a lot of people in ufology that completely write off Bob Lazar. But I can't quite get with that because I call Bob Lazar the Patty of
Mm,
ufology,
yeah.
the Patterson Gimlin film, which, by the way, one of my prized mementos. I've got a signed Bob Gimlin photograph of Patty.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Lucky.
Well, I know. Well, so here's the thing. To um to me, like even an X space on ufology probably wouldn't exist if Bob Lazar had not come out with his story.
Mm-mm.
I mean, we wouldn't even be there talking about it, I feel like.
Yeah.
And and just like Patty, I'm not going to call any names here. We've had a lot of people on the podcast talk about Bigfoots, but one of them, after the fact, CJ and I found this to be slightly annoying. I don't say that often about things, but
Mm,
we wanted to talk about Patterson Gimlin film, and we had arranged that ahead of time. Like that was in the outline.
yeah.
And this Bigfoot researcher did not want to talk about the Patterson Gimlin film. And they were involved in some very popular Bigfoot things. And
Yeah.
and I didn't say it, but my thing was, my goodness, your books on Bigfoot, which by the way, we're trying to help you sell on the podcast. And
Sure.
this television show that you're involved in about Bigfoot, it those things probably wouldn't even exist if it weren't for the Patterson Gimlin film. Like if you just went back in time and erased Patty, would these future Bigfoot things even exist? So I don't know how you can just like throw shade at Patty like that and not even talk about her. But I mean, anyway, that's
Absolutely.
how
Yeah,
I view Bob Lazar.
yeah, I agree. There's so many instances like that that set the stage for what we see now. So many. The Warrens, for example, in the paranormal field, there's no way that you couldn't have some sort of um paranormal industry with hauntings and exorcisms and all the other stuff without having the Warrens doing what they did, whether or not you agree with them or not, whether or not you believe them or not. Same with Patterson Gimlin, same with Bob Lazar. They set the stage. These people or these incidences set the stage for what we deal with now, in the way that we deal with it. And without them happening and without acknowledging whether or not you sit on one side of the fence or the other, it's irrelevant. You still have to accept it and go, actually, that was a thing. That was a thing that has influenced where we are today. Otherwise, we simply wouldn't be here.
Oh yeah. It's like Skinwalker Ranch too, right? Like Skinwalker Ranch has involved so many branches of ufology
Yeah.
that to just throw the baby out with the
Mhm.
sensational aspects of the television show bathwater, is just
Yeah.
not appropriate. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I have a lot of respect for the people on the TV show too, but there's so much history to the property, and then,
Mhm.
just look at you got the people that owned it before Bigelow, and then Robert Bigelow buys it, and then he literally goes from being like a motel dude
Mhm.
to one of the top aerospace dudes just because he bought
Like
Skinwalker
that.
Ranch. Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, I found that really interesting as well. We did some research on Bigelow and Skinwalker Ranch, and I was like, oh my God, there's so many rabbit holes to follow on him alone. That was just wild. I was like, I don't quite know what's going on in Skinwalker Ranch, but I followed that little rabbit hole of Bigelow and then the new owner as well. And I was like, man, come on. There's
These
way
these
more.
bottles I've got. Guess who else visited the plains of St. Augustine crash site? Robert
Mm,
Bigelow.
Mr. Bigelow himself.
Yeah, there's a photograph in a book I've got of Robert Bigelow and Stanton Friedman and a couple of others at the plains of St. Augustine crash site.
And that's how you
Now,
know it's an important place, right? It's an
yes.
important location.
Oh, for sure.
Mm.
Not only that, but Bigelow apparently funded a helicopter one time out there
Mhm.
to transport people to the site. So something was going on.
Way more to the stories. Oh my God, Tim, you are amazing. It must be
You're
really
too
late at your
kind.
house now. We have been cracking on into this one. I'm going to let you go and go to sleep. I know there's going to be a round two, and I'm really hoping that that one is with Juliet.
Okay.
I'm sure we can make that happen, and we would love to have CJ on as well. Even
Oh,
if
I'll
she
tell
wants
her.
to come on by herself, like ex Dr. Mounce, she could come and join us. We would love to have
She would love
her.
that. I think that would be very appropriate for
We
the
would love,
cryptid
love,
women.
love. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she's been on my list of people, people to to get on the show, 100%.
Oh, okay, good. I'll tell her that.
Absolutely. She's been on
She'll
the
be
list
excited.
since we had our wee little live together, 100%. But look, we've talked about going on each other's shows, and that will happen in the new year, and we will make sure that we're all together hanging out. And I mean, we get to have our virtual Christmas party. That would have been gone by the time this is aired, and it was amazing, everyone. I hope you were there. Tim, you are absolutely amazing. Can you give a piece of advice or something we should know or something you want everyone to know just before we head out?
Yeah, definitely. This is something I say quite often on All Things Unexplained. I encourage people to get off these things for a little while. Get off your screens. People, the way they view their surroundings now is so much different than, let's say, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. People now view their environment with their heads tilted down, like a 45-degree angle toward the ground. And back in the day, people's heads were up and their heads were on a swivel, and they saw things above them and they saw things around them. So I want to encourage people, as soon as they finish watching this podcast, to get off their screens, get off their phones for a little while, to head out into the woods and experience nature, to get outside at night and look up at the sky. When I take my dog on a walk at night and I look up at the sky, I see something every night. I see something, okay? Because I'm looking up. So get off your screens and get out there. You might not spot a Bigfoot or a Tasmanian tiger. You might not see a UFO or have a close encounter, but you might just discover something even more important out there, and that's yourself. And that would be my advice.
Amazeballs. What a way to end the show. 100%
Thanks for having me, Lisa. I enjoyed this so much. And now I'm going to get to go turn on Coast to Coast AM because
oh my God, it's about that time.
I stayed up that late.
I'm so proud of you. I like to be the enabler. Okay. I like to help.
It was amazing. Tell Jules I said hi.
I will do. I absolutely will. Well, she was like semi on the show by way of watch phone call. So, no, we are just so grateful to have you and CJ backing us and supporting us as well. And it goes right back to you guys too. And we absolutely love the fact that we get to be friends. And one day, I feel an expedition on the cards. I know it's going to happen, and I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm down.
I don't know. Maybe it'll be in Australia. Maybe we'll go to Easter Island together.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Oh,
Easter
wouldn't that be
Island.
so cool?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
So many fun places to go. So many
I
fun
feel
places.
like I gotta back up what I was talking about now. So
Oh, you do have to. Yeah. Well, I'll bring the knife. You'll be fine.
yes.
Tim, you're phenomenal. Thank you so much. Really quickly, tell everyone where we can find you. Do a quick drop on all of the good stuff.
Okay, check us out at allthingsunexplained.com. There you can support All Things Unexplained. You can find us everywhere we're at. Check us out on YouTube. That's youtube.com/at All Things Unexplained. If you're so inclined, please give us a follow. That really helps the show out more than anything. And we appreciate all of you so much.
Awesome. You're the best. Stick around for a little bit, Tim. I'm going to sign off here and we will have a chat afterwards. If you have any questions about this podcast, feel free to go over and talk to Tim, talk to CJ, DM them, send them an email, send them a message on YouTube. Definitely give them a like and follow and all of that good stuff. If you have any questions for Juliet or myself, send it on through. You're in the members portal. Jump on into the gathering and drop a message. And if you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to message underneath in the comments. We will make sure that we're all watching those comments and answering. And come and find us, and we will keep an eye out on the new book being launched published in 2026, and we will definitely chuck those up on the socials. Whoop, whoop. Thank you, Tim. You are amazing. Signing off, and we'll see y'all later. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Cryptid women's society are walking in the shadows.